The first thing I want to talk about today is the attitude we have, not just in this class, but in any class we take. We need to have an attitude that is more like, okay, I didn't do well this time. I'm going to do better next time. I'm going to talk to the teacher. I'm going to look for someone that can help me out with these type of problems. But we should never allow, a bad grade to hold us down, no matter what. And the second thing I want you to realize is, as you come to school or as you go around, you will meet people that need some encouragement. And so I want you to pay attention, to look around and see who might just need some encouragement. Like, who needs encouragement? And I'm going to go out and try encouraging them, if you're blessed with that gift. But you need to make sure that you don't live in your own little world, okay? That you take the step and do what it takes to be an encouragement to others, as God would have us be, right? According to what we learn in the Bible. Now, there's three things I want to talk about now from chapter 27. In the chapter, it talks about graphing quadratic equations. And there's a very good way to use to graph anything, not just quadratic equations. That method involves writing your x. You have your x. You have what the actual expression or equation is, and then what the y value will be. So, for example, if I told you to graph 2x squared minus x minus 6, what I would like to see is you write your x and you write the values. So you're going from minus 3 to 3. So minus 3, minus 2, minus 1, 0, 1, 2, 3. Then the next one would involve what is the expression I gave you, 2x squared minus x minus 6. You write it out. Every time you see x, you substitute that value in for x. So on this first line, you have 2 into minus 3 squared minus 3 minus 6. You do that with the minus 3, you do that with the minus 2, you do that with the minus 1, and so on and so forth. You go step by step. Again, guys, the key to being successful in math or any other subject that involves calculations is you go carefully, slow and steady. You don't want to make silly mistakes, okay? And then you write what you get after you evaluate or put in minus 3 in for x. For the first one, we got 15. So 2, and then multiplied by, first of all, we deal with this, which is minus 3 squared, which is 9. 2 times 9, which is 18, minus 3, which is minus times minus is plus. So 18 plus 3, and then minus 6 will give us 15. That's the method we use for anything we're trying to graph. And then after you do that, you get your x values, you get your y values, you go on your graph, your y coordinates, x coordinates, look for those points, and then connect those points. That's how you deal with this graph. So now that I've explained this, I'm going to clean this off and use it to draw a graph for one of the ones I gave you. The graph for the third one, x squared plus 6x plus 9, would be something to the effect of that. Something of that nature. And as you observe, that there's, you're going to have the zeros occurring right there. But in a sense, that could also be, called your x-intercept, right? Where it intersects the x-axis. Remember yesterday we talked about a vertex? That would be the vertex, where there's a change of direction. This is the first key thing I want you to note from this video on math. Let's talk about the second thing. The AC method is a method that is used to solve quadratic equations. And that it has several steps. I'm going to list the steps, and I'm going to use them to solve the first one I gave you. Then I'm going to solve the second one, and then I'm going to solve the third one. Hopefully that will help you get more comfortable with solving quadratic equations. With the AC method, it's key to note that, there's other methods you could use, but the AC method, just as you follow those steps, it will make sense, and hopefully you'll be able to solve any quadratic equation you ever given. So let's move over here and do the AC method on this problem. The first step is to find AC. What is AC? Well, A is the coefficient of x squared. B is the coefficient of x. And C is the constant. So AC is your A times your C. In this case, that would be negative 12. That's your AC. So step 1 is you find AC. Step 2, you find B. B is simply minus 1. That's the coefficient of x. So B is equal to minus 1. The next step is the more interesting step. In the third step, what you want to do is you want to find two numbers that when you multiply them together, they give you minus 12. And when you add them, they give you minus 1. So two numbers that when you multiply them together give you your AC. When you add them, they give you B. So we take minus 12. We write down the things that we can multiply that would give us minus 12. So let's start with a few. 3 and negative 4. 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. So that's, those are two numbers. But let's just do two more. We can go minus 3 and positive 4. That will multiply to give you negative 12. 6 and negative 2 will multiply to give you negative 12. So now, we found numbers that multiply to give us AC. But do they add to give us B? That's the question. And so at this point, you come here and you write B. We need the numbers to add to negative 1. So minus 3 plus 4 is a positive 1. 3 minus 4 is a negative 1. So we know that 3 and negative 4 are the two numbers. In that case, what we do is we write a new expression. We write 2x squared minus 4x plus 3x minus 6. That's our new expression. 2x squared minus 4x plus 3x minus 6. Okay, now some of you are like, what's going on? Let me explain why this might be a little tricky. Look at this expression here. The AC for this one is simply minus 6. The B is minus 1. Now, step 3 is find two numbers that when you multiply them together, you get minus 6. When you add them, you get minus 1. You go ahead and write the multiples of 6. Minus 6. You have minus 2 and 3. You have minus 3 and 2. Now, minus 3 and 2 work out. But notice in this step, because A was 1, realize that you're done with this problem. But you're not done with that problem. Did everyone hear that? You're done with this one, but you're not done with that one. The reason why is because the next thing you do here is you set up two brackets. In the first one, you write x minus 3. In the second one, you write x plus 2. You're done. You solve that. But let's go back to this one, because it's a little more interesting. After we write our new expression, 2x squared minus 4x plus 3x minus 6, we then factorize by grouping. That's the difference between solving a quadratic expression with a as 1 and a as a number above 1 or greater than 1. And so in this case, we factorize by grouping, which simply means we take out what is common from the first two and from the second two terms. 2x squared minus 4x, what's common is 2x. So we write 2x, and then we open our bracket and we write what is left. And then we go to the next bracket. What's common between 3 and 6, 3 and 6 here simply would be the 3. And so we have 3 into x minus 2. Of course, it's a plus, because 3 times x is 3x, and then 3 times minus 2 is minus 6. So now we have a minus 2 that we can take out, because it's common in both terms. So we get 2x plus 3, and we get x minus 2. That's the answer to the first quadratic expression. Make sure you review that. The second one is here, x minus 3, x plus 2. Let me say something. When you draw the graph for this, let's say this was equal to 0. If you were to solve for the zeros of this expression, so what makes this 0? Notice that 3 will make it 0, because 3 minus 3 is 0, and that will make the whole thing 0. Or minus 2 plus 2. Minus 2 will make it 0. So notice that if you had x minus 3, x plus 2 is equal to 0, x minus 3 is equal to 0, or x plus 2 is equal to 0. Anything times 0 is 0. So that means if this bracket is 0, this whole thing will be 0. And if this bracket is 0, the whole thing will be 0. So again, the key thing to note is that the zeros are x is equal to 3. Notice that x is equal to 3, or x is equal to minus 2. Those are the x-intercepts. So when you draw your graph, you should expect to find it going through 3 and minus 2. So you want to check your graph and see if that is the case for the second graph you drew. For the third one, this is the easiest one to do. Our AC is plus 9. That's step 1. Find AC. Step 2 is to identify your B, which is plus 6. You find two numbers that when you multiply them, you get 9. And when you add them, you get 6. 3 and 3. Even though notice that minus 3 and minus 3, when you multiply them, you can get positive 9. But when you add them, you get a negative 6. We need them to add up to our b. So we get x plus 3, x plus 3. Notice that when you use the AC method and you get two brackets, they will multiply out to give you your original expression. They should. If they don't, then there's a mistake along the way. That's all that we will say with the AC method and quadratic functions. Now we're going to move on to, I think it's simplifying rational expressions.